Hey everybody, welcome to the Player's Take episode 61. I am your host Justin DeSimone, joined by, no one this week. Unfortunately, some things have happened. Montrell is unable to do the show this week. He will be back next week though, so I'm going to be doing a show solo this week. It's just going to be me. I'm just going to be talking through news. This will more than likely be a much shorter show than usual, maybe to some of your celebration. I know some of you folks out there don't love our 2-hour shows sometimes. So I expect this will probably be 30 to 45 minutes. That's kind of my plan going into this, but we'll see how far what I have to talk about takes me. It could go much longer than that. It could go shorter. So let me, I guess, just kind of jump right into the rigmarole. So for those of you who haven't listened before, the Player's Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Let me start, like we usually do, with what I've been playing. So I've actually been playing a lot this week. I've been kind of working from home on and off, so I don't have a commute at the moment some days, which means that my playing time has gone up a little bit because my commute is about an hour to and from work, so I'm gaining about an hour and a half to my days back. So I've had a little bit more time to play recently, and I've been playing quite a bit. So, excuse me, guys. So first thing I guess I want to mention is Apex Legends. So I hadn't played that in a couple weeks. I got sick, like I said, last week, and I haven't played it much. But I did play yesterday for the first time in a couple weeks, and it was a fun, very fun session. I was encouraged to kind of come to the realization that I really do like this game. Even having been away from it for 2 weeks, I was not kind of... you know that feeling you get sometimes where you put a game down and you come back to it and it's just you just don't feel like playing it anymore? I didn't have that feeling with Apex yesterday. It was a very fun session, and I do want to continue to play it. I did fall behind on my battle pass, which is, the grind there with that. So I don't know. I'm probably not going to get all the rewards before the end of the season, but who knows? It may something may hit me and I'll grind it out, because you can kind of grind endlessly with Apex's battle pass. If you play a lot, there is no cap, as far as I know, to how many levels you can gain through leveling up every week, like usually just getting regular experience. So, I may end up having to do that. But there is one thing about Apex, though, that happened today. It is kind of, it's been announced by Respawn that they are bringing Duos and Kings Canyon back as permanent additions to the game next week, which is huge. So Kings Canyon is, I believe, the first map for Apex that they ever made, and it was the map for quite a while. I think 2 or 3 seasons of the game, and we're on season 4 now. So I think the map was very popular, but it just doesn't. They didn't seem happy with it after a while. They brought it back in a limited fashion recently. And I do like the map, but I think it was it definitely has some weird spots to it. But it's very different from the current map, which is called World's Edge. That is I like that map quite a bit, actually. There's a lot of good... I like the topography on that map for sure. It's got a lot of nooks and crannies for having some really good combat. So they're bringing Kings Canyon back permanently, and then they're also bringing Duos. So this is a mode that has been limited in the past, usually like a limited 2-week event, something along those lines, and they're bringing it back for good. And this is a huge change. I think the community's really been asking for this for quite a long time because, to me, I think this is great for my play. I'm probably going to want to play this game more now, given this, because we have a large group of people, amongst us, our friends, Montrell and I's friends, that all play Apex, but obviously given our schedules and different life situations, we're not all able to play every single night. So there's been quite a number of nights where it's just been me and somebody else, or just 2 of us, and that means that you have to play with a random third, because the game does not let you play without filling. Excuse me. So you cannot play with a random third, and that means that we're oftentimes playing with two of us, and it's a third rando. And that rando, unfortunately, a lot of the time, I mean, you may have heard us talk about this in the past on the show when we talk about Apex, is that the rando, honestly, most of the time sets the tempo for the rest of us because we're trying to be a team, and the game is a team game. So if one person runs off and the other two don't go with them, you're just going to lose because you're going to be down a man ultimately. So usually we end up letting the rando kind of set our tempo, which is not very fun for us because we're not strategizing the way we normally would. And we kind of follow them, follow their lead. Sometimes they'll follow us, and sometimes, and honestly, we've gotten a lot of wins actually with randos before. I'm not saying they're all bad, but a large majority of the time, though, they are not team players, and they kind of decide they want to go somewhere, and they just go, And so, to me, I don't like that gameplay experience, and I really love the fact that Duos is coming because it'll just be me and one of my friends. We can kind of guarantee that it's, just the two of us, and we can do what we want, play the way that we want, and that is exciting in and of itself. So that's coming next week, supposedly, according to Respawn, and that is huge, absolutely huge. So been playing that, going to keep playing that for sure. And next game, so I did play more Berwick Saga since we recorded last week. It's been about a full calendar week since we recorded last week, and I got to chapter 11. I was on chapter 9 when we recorded last week, and there's 15 chapters in the game. I'm actually really close to the end of the game. I think there's only 7 battles left that I have to do that includes side missions. So I don't have a ton left to do in Berwick Saga, but I think I overplayed it last week because I think around Saturday afternoon, I kind of got burnt on the game a little bit. I was in the middle of a mission, and I fucked something up, and I forgot to take a character for one of the side missions that you needed to take in order to do a specific objective. And I was probably, 6 or 7 turns into the battle, and I was like, and then I realized I needed that character, and I was like, shit. And I ended up quitting the battle, and I just kind of quit the game because, I was frustrated. So I haven't played since, and there's a specific reason for that I'll get into in a second. But I'm not abandoning this game at all. Like I said, I still hold it in very high regard. It's a special game. I just kind of needed a little bit of a break from it, I think, because I had been grinding real hard in this game last week and the week before. So I think I've been playing a little bit too much. So I'm putting it down for the time being until I've finished the game I'm currently playing. So it's two different games actually. So I got into Gwent, the Witcher card game, which is the CD Projekt Red, kind of CCG, digital CCG that they released a few years ago now. That was a spin-off of the mini game Gwent from The Witcher 3, and it was so popular and well received in The Witcher 3 with the players of that game that CD Projekt Red decided to make an actual standalone Gwent card game in a digital form. And it came out on Android last week, and I decided to try it out. And honestly, it is a very refreshing experience. So I did play Hearthstone back when that came out, 2014, 2015, whenever that was. It's been a while now. And that game was fun. Briefly, I'd say it like lasted a little while for me, but I quickly will say that I lost interest in it. It's a very traditional CCG in the vein of Magic the Gathering, and other games of that sort. With you have your mana, and every unit has a mana cost and all that stuff. And it just I've been there, done that with that kind of thing. And honestly, the game didn't do enough to innovate that kind of thing. Like it didn't feel. It almost felt like there was a physical Warcraft card game for a long time, and I don't think it's around anymore. I have a lot of the cards for it, actually. And that physical card game was not super popular, but Hearthstone is kind of loosely based off of that. It has a lot of similar mechanics to that card game, but it's made by Blizzard, and it's digital, and it's obviously much more popular than that physical card game ever was. So it's like I already kind of had a been there, done that mentality with it from that perspective, since it was so similar to the physical card game in a lot of ways, that I kind of dropped it quickly. So, and these games are kind of hard to defend anyways, because they are honestly very, very greedy games where booster packs for CCGs are literally physical loot boxes, and the digital CCGs work the same way as the physical ones, where you have to buy booster packs, and the booster packs have like one guaranteed rare in them, and they might have more than that in them. They might have like, multiple rares or epics or legendary or what have you. And that honestly is a really, really toxic kind of thing for me. So given my history with mobile games, I kind of steer clear of these kind of games. But since it came out on Android last week, I don't know, I was seeing it and I was kind of burnt on Berwick Saga, and I just decided, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to download it. So that's what I did. I downloaded it last week and started playing it a little bit, and I have to say I like it a lot. I think it is a much more unique card game compared to many of these other games that are out there, and it really does its own thing. It doesn't really ape other card games in any particular way. It plays very similarly to the card game in The Witcher 3, but it has some very key differences, and one of those being, and I completely forgot about this, but The Witcher 3's version of Gwent had 3 rows, and this game on beta release had 3 rows, and now it only has 2. It has a melee and a ranged row. You'd almost think that would simplify the game, but it's not that big of a deal, frankly. That simplification, I think, actually made it easier for them to balance things. There's that. And then the game has quite a number of ways for players to get things for free. I will say I'm recording this the day that a new reward progression system released, and it is extremely controversial. People are not very happy about it. Because it is kind of reducing rewards overall. But to me, as a new player, free-to-play, well, not free-to-play, God, definitely not. But as a new player, I'm finding that I don't actually mind this new progression system. It's basically a battle pass, but it's making it so that I do not have to play the game as much to get a similar number of rewards as I did before. The old system kind of really rewarded super hardcore players that played a lot every single day, and I'm not that player, and I don't want to be that player. The thing is about this game, I'm enjoying it playing 2 or 3 games a day, which is maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes of gameplay, and if I can get as many rewards as possible from whatever reward system they have, doing that, playing 2 or 3 games a day, that is where I want to be, so that's kind of where it is right now. And I did purchase the Battle Pass. I purchased the premium version of it because it makes it so that you don't have to play as much. And I know that sounds stupid. It's like I'm like paying not to play the game as much. But that's the thing with these games. It's a psychological thing, right? Because if I didn't do that, I'd have to play 2 to 3 times as many games as I'm having to play now. I'd have to play 6 or 9 games a day. And that's just way too many games. That's like an hour to 2 hours every day. And that just turns the game into a job. And that's exactly what mobile games can't be if they're going to stay like relevant for me, and they're going to stay fun. So I have started getting into it, though, a little bit more. The game has its standard rank mode. It has a casual, like unranked mode. It has an arena like Hearthstone does, which I haven't tried yet. And it also has a kind of seasonal mode that is wacky. It has like wacky rules or whatever every month. I don't know if there are any specific rewards tied to playing that mode. I haven't really tried it yet specifically, but I will get into that further once I'm like more kind of ingrained in the game, I guess. But I did start kind of building my own deck away from the starter decks, and I actually played it earlier and did get a win with it. It was very fun. It takes a lot of strategy with it, so I'm not sure I actually built a good deck, but it's fun to build your own deck though and kind of win a game with it. And so I really like Gwent. I'm liking it a lot, and that kind of led me to the other game I'm playing. So it's called The Witcher Tales Thronebreaker, which is a game that CD Projekt Red released alongside Gwent when Gwent came out of beta back in October of 2018. And this is a single-player game that is it's basically, so if you liked Gwent in The Witcher 3, but you don't find the multiplayer aspect of the Gwent CCG appealing, this may be the game to try, because this is basically a single player Gwent game. The battles are Gwent, but it has it has unique cards to this game, specific to this game, that are not in the regular card game. However, there are cards that you can obtain within this game that you can use in the regular card game. There are different versions in the regular card game, but they're from this game. So this game is a story-driven game. It's an isometric adventure game where you kind of point and click. It's like point and click, but you move your character around, and you search the environment. You interact with NPCs. Events happen. You have to make choices, just like in the Witcher games. And I think this game is very, very interesting. I actually am surprised by how much I like it. I remember when it first came out, I was interested in it, but not so much that I dropped what I was doing to play it. But I'm glad I picked this up because it was on sale on GOG for like, I don't know, $8 I think last week when I picked it up, and I was like, okay, I'll do it because I was playing Gwent, and you get rewards in Gwent for playing Thronebreaker. They give you I think it's 5 free kegs, which are the booster packs basically. You get up to 60 reward points, which are basically the progression within the Gwent game. It's how you get additional rewards like kegs and ore and all the free currency in that game, or whatever the in-game currency within that game. It's how you get it, is the reward points. So you can get up to 60 of those, which is a lot. That's enough to fill like a full tree, which gets you a lot of resources. And you also get some special rewards for opening golden chests within Thronebreaker that are kind of like little hidden kind of collectibles within the game. So you'll get cosmetics within the Gwent game as well for that. So you get a lot of rewards for playing the game. And I specifically, if you are going to do this, if you're playing Gwent and you want to try this out, I would recommend playing it on PC because the rewards tie in much better than they do on like console or whatever. I don't even think you can tie them in with the console version. So, but the game is really fun. It's a single player game that takes place. So from a time frame perspective, I think this game takes place after The Witcher 3. That's what it seems like, because it takes place in the Northern Realms, which, The Witcher 3 took place in the Northern Realms. And your main objective, I guess, the story of the game is such that at the very beginning of the game, Nilfgaard basically starts to invade the north, essentially. Really early in the game this happens. And that is the whole crux of the game, is that you're trying to throw back Nilfgaard. And it's a very interesting story because it kind of gives you some lore that, it's kind of nice to see a story within the Witcher world that is not centered on Geralt. This is the first game to do that that I can think of. I'm pretty sure that's correct. But it is a really interesting tale so far. I like the characters. I really like the main character, Queen Meve. She is a very cool character. She is the Queen of Lyria and Rivia. And she's a really cool character. She has a very distinct personality relative to somebody like Geralt or something like that. So she's pretty cool. You do get to interact with a lot of the political leaders amongst the other nations in the Northern Realms too, which is really cool. So you get to see a lot of stuff that you don't get to see within the Witcher games, and you get a perspective of that you don't get in the Witcher games. So it's very cool. It's told in a very narrative style. There's a narrator that kind of narrates the story, but then you'll see actual, not cutscenes, but I guess they're cutscenes, but it's not like action cutscenes. It's just like characters, character portraits talking to each other with text or whatever. But it's fully voice acted for the most part. It's very cool in that regard. So the game is cool. I liked it a lot. I initially got it because I was interested in it, but the rewards for Gwent enticed me to try it even further. So I think I'm a little over 60% probably done. I'm in the 4th region of the game now. I just started that earlier tonight, actually. And the game is very fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm hoping to beat it this weekend or early next week. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So yeah, and then I kind of want to get back into Gwent and really just kind of play it for the long haul here and see if it can stick with me. I'm really enjoying the strategy of Gwent. I think it has a very good. There's really good synergies. It seems like the game's in a good place balance wise. According to a lot of the stuff I've read amongst the community, people are very happy with where the game is. So I think it's a very, very good CCG. I think if you've played Hearthstone or Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or any of these card games, physical card games or digital card games, and you're not playing anything right now and you want to check it out, I really recommend this because it's really different from those. There's no mana costs or anything like that. Like, there is a provision cost, but that is not like an active resource that you spend. It's literally how much, like, your deck has a limit on how many provisions it has, and each unit has a provision cost associated with it, and you can only fit so many provisions in your deck, obviously. So it is, I've not found it to be super limiting at this point, but obviously I'm a noob and don't have very many good cards. So later on, I expect that will be very much a limiting factor for me. But the game is being updated constantly. It is very much like an active game, and there's supposedly another expansion coming out in the summer, and then maybe one in the winter. That's kind of the rumor right now. So I think one just came out like 3 or 4 months ago as well, the Merchants of Ophir or something like that. So it's a very cool game. I like the decks. There's 6 different decks you can play with, or not decks, but factions, and they all have their own special units and whatnot, and they have their own special mechanics, which is a really cool, unique thing to the game as well. Like, there's no generic decks. You have to pick a faction, and you have to pick a faction leader with a faction power as well for your deck. So you have to commit to one of the factions, and it's very, very cool. And I think all the factions so far, honestly, I think are all really cool. The only one I find underwhelming is Northern Realms. They just seem to not have an identity to me, but I haven't played them enough really to say that for sure. But I have been really playing Nilfgaard. They're pretty fun. They do a lot of weird control stuff in terms of like taking control of enemy units and destroying enemy units and moving enemy units around to do certain things and all sorts of stuff like that. So very fun game. I definitely recommend it. So all right, let's move into the news. So there's not a lot to talk about this week. Like I said, this show is going to be much shorter than normal. I am kind of saving a couple stories for when Montrell gets back next week because I'd rather discuss that with him. But the main thing we're going to be talking about today is delays have started to kind of come upon us. So this happened, I think, today. Actually, this was announced. Sony basically released a statement on Twitter saying that The Last of Us 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR are going to be delayed, quote, until further notice. So they have a full quote here. Well, actually, this is from Naughty Dog, so I'm going to read this, honestly. Well, actually, hold on. I'll read both statements. Let me pull up the Sony statement here real quick. Just bear with me, guys. Here we go. So it's a short tweet. So, quote, update. SIE has made the difficult decision to delay the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR until further notice. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from providing the launch experience our players deserve. That was it, end quote. And then this is from Naughty Dog. So, quote, as you've likely just seen, the release of The Last of Us Part 2 has been delayed. We're sure this news is just as disappointing to you as it is to us. We wanted to reach out to all of you in our community to give you a little more information. The good news is we're nearly done with development of The Last of Us Part 2. We are in the midst of fixing our final bugs. However, even with us finishing the game, we were faced with the reality that due to logistics beyond our control, we couldn't launch The Last of Us Part 2 to our satisfaction. We want to make sure everyone gets to play The Last of Us Part 2 around the same time, ensuring that we're doing everything possible to preserve the best experience for everyone. This meant delaying the game until such a time when we can solve these logistic issues. We were bummed about this decision, but ultimately understood it's what's best and fair to all of our players. We're hoping that this won't be a long delay, and we'll update you as soon as we have new information to share. We wish you all, your families, and your friends the best of health. Thank you for being amazing fans and your continued support. Stay safe, end quote. So these aren't the only games that were delayed. Wasteland 3 and Minecraft Dungeons were also delayed by Microsoft. So this is the press release for Minecraft Dungeons. So, quote, as you all know, we initially planned to release Minecraft Dungeons by the end of April. However, due to the current state of the world, this was no longer possible, as we wanted to guarantee the health and safety of our teams and empower them to deliver the best possible experience to you, our players. And then this is from In Exile, Wasteland 3, quote, "We've been excited to see the Wastelands 3 beta so well received, but the reality is that with these new logistical challenges, our release was going to be impacted. We're in a great position with both Microsoft and Deep Silver supporting our desire to ensure the game launches in the best possible circumstances and to add a few extra months to ensure this is a stellar product on day one." So, 4 game delays, 4 games that were imminent, in fact, that are all being delayed. Minecraft Dungeons has a firm release date of May 26th, but honestly, with the way things are right now, I wouldn't be surprised if that got pushed as well, depending on how things go for them. So I'm not surprised by any of these delays. Montrell and I were both kind of anticipating this coming, given the COVID-19 situation around the world and people working from home. I'm just not sure how effective video game studios can be at collaborating with one another remotely, because I think the ability to talk face-to-face and kind of bounce ideas off each other is more than likely infinitely valuable in those situations. So I'm sure certain studios will bounce back better than others, but given the situation, I would anticipate more games being delayed within the next 6 months, I would say. I would say anything through September or even October probably is not safe. I'd even go so far as to say the end of the year, because this situation, even if let's say it gets better in 2 or 3 months and things get back to normal, that means that there's going to be a period of time where people are kind of getting back into their normal routines and normal life. And for video game studios, honestly, those 2 to 3 months could be a literal just delay on their production ability. If they are not able to get very much done remotely, then, those games aren't going to be able to hit their windows, And I'm sure some companies and publishers and studios are going to try their hardest to make sure their games come out on time, but that may be to their detriment ultimately if the games are not ready and are buggy or bug-filled. Because honestly, these games, particularly these ones close to the finish line, these last few months are vital for these games coming out and releasing in a good state. Naughty Dog has talked in the past that the Last of Us, the original one, also got delayed right before its launch, like 2 or 3 months. And those 2 to 3 months were vital for that game being as good as it was, as polished as it was. And the fact that they got interrupted here after delaying it from February means that they can't finish the bug fixing and the polishing the way they did with the first game in a timely manner to get it out on time. So I totally understand that they're delaying this game. And as I said, I would expect many developers to do the same thing since these final months are so vital. I think games that are years out probably will see a much lesser effect on. I wouldn't anticipate many of them being impacted too much. But if they manage their timelines well and do certain things kind of maybe out of order, or they're working on stuff that isn't, they work on some things that they can work on from home. They'll probably be fine. But games in the near future, they're going to be probably in trouble. So we will update you guys on every one of these delays as they come out. The more we hear about, the more we'll talk about them. But I am starting to get kind of concerned. I mean, we've been talking about the consoles for a while, whether we think they're going to hit the end of the year or not. And I think Microsoft is really committed to the end of the year, getting the Xbox Series out before the end of the year. But Sony, I'm just less confident in right now. I just don't know if they're going to be able to hit that date. And if they should hit that date, if their games aren't ready to go because of this situation and they end up getting delayed out of the year and they release the console with nothing to play, I just don't know if that's going to go well for them. They might be better off pushing the console to March and having everything 100% ready and just releasing it like that. But their fear of releasing after Microsoft might still push them and commit them to getting it out this year. But we'll see. We'll be monitoring that situation as well. So I would anticipate we will find out more here in the next couple months, hopefully. But everything seems to be so up in the air right now that I don't even think we could guarantee any of that. So we'll kind of see how things play out. We will take it as it comes, and we'll let you guys know what happens. All right, so the next story. This one, interesting one. So there's been a rumor flying around that Nintendo is going to be releasing a Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary game that is going to have a bunch of old Mario games. And some of the rumors were saying that it's going to have like Super Mario 3D Land, it's going to have Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and Super Mario Sunshine. And man, let me tell you, if Nintendo releases that as a kind of like a collection, that is going to be a really, really big game, because all of those games that I just mentioned, all 4 of them, have never been released outside of their original console release. Mario Sunshine, being the most surprising, has never been re-released, as far as I know, and that game came out on the GameCube, and that was not a console that sold very well, so not a lot of people have played Super Mario Sunshine. And Galaxy 1 and 2 are phenomenal games on the Wii, but they've been stranded on the Wii since the Wii came out, or since they came out on the Wii. And the idea that they would be playable here on the Switch is just so enticing. As much as I didn't love Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are just absolutely impeccable platformers, 3D platformers. The level design is just so awesome in those 2 games. And I would be super excited about this. But this rumor did not end there. This year is going to be a very Mario-centric year, according to this rumor, where there may be a new Paper Mario game, which would be cool to see, but that series has been in such turmoil right now, or lately, that I just don't know if I trust Nintendo to come out with a game that can stand up to what the expectations would be for it. Because that series, originally, the first 2 games, Paper Mario on the N64 and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door on the GameCube, were turn-based RPGs in the vein of like Final Fantasy, like old Final Fantasy games. And they were really good games. They were really fun games. But the series after that quickly kind of just changed into something unrecognizable almost, with Super Paper Mario, which was a good game, mind you, but it was like a platformer, like a 2D platformer. And it was a weird game. It was fun. I liked it a lot, but it wasn't really what I wanted out of Paper Mario. And then it kind of just evolved from there, where we got Paper Mario Sticker Star, Paper Mario, I think it was like Color Splash or whatever what the last one was, the one I think it was on the Wii U. And then there was a kind of a collaboration, I think it was Super Mario Paper Jam or something, between the Paper Mario franchise and the Mario and Luigi games. And I don't know how good that game was, but it wasn't really a Paper Mario game, so I didn't particularly have interest in it. And the series has just been bad for a while, and I kind of hope if they actually do a Paper Mario game, they will just bring it back to its roots and go back to that original style of the first couple games, because those games are really good and they're really fun. And they have a lot of content in them, and they are real true RPGs. Like, they're not super deep. There's not a huge amount of character customization or anything like that, but they're fun, dude. They're fun games, and they have puzzles and they have platforming, and it's a lot of interesting stuff, and there's a lot of like exploration in those games. I think Paper Mario, the original one, is honestly like it's one of my favorite games on the N64, and it's a really special game. It has a lot of really cool stuff in it, and Thousand Year Door just takes that and ratchets the whole thing up and makes it better, So I hope to see something more in that vein. I don't think that's gonna be a guarantee, obviously, given the way Nintendo's been handling it lately. But I think if they're smart, they'll go back to that, because I don't think anybody who's a fan of the Paper Mario franchise has wanted these last few games, and they've done so poorly too. It's just like they've been so critically, like they've not been well received critically by fans or actual critics, and I don't even know if they've sold well, honestly, even for Nintendo games. They probably sold okay because they're Nintendo games, but like that's they can't be happy with that situation. So I hope they go back to the roots with that. But we will find out more about this probably at E3. There was a leak about Nintendo's E3 kind of announcements. I don't know how much I trust it at the moment, but this was part of that. So I'm sure we'll hear more here in a couple months. and we will let you know when we do hear that. So that's it for big news. I'm going to wrap up here with some announcements, game announcements, and release date announcements. So this happened today. So Rogue Legacy, the developers of Rogue Legacy, Cellar Door Games, have announced that Rogue Legacy 2 is in development. And Rogue Legacy is a 2013 roguelike platformer where you kind of have to delve into a castle and get to the end of the castle, and it has like multiple areas and levels, and then there's an end boss that you have to beat. But it's a roguelike, so the game plays where you go into the castle, you try to get as far as you can, but ultimately you die, and then you respawn with a new character, and you can, depending on what you did with that prior character, you can spend like currency, I think, to upgrade subsequent characters. That was kind of the whole conceit of the game, and it was a very, very fun game. I actually beat it. I thought it was a really cool game. So hearing about Rogue Legacy 2, is really cool. These games, though, these roguelikes really have kind of come a long way since Rogue Legacy came out, so I'm really hoping that they take a lot from some of these other indies that have come out over the years, like Dead Cells or Hollow Knight or things like that. Over the years and really learn from that. Because I will say the one thing about Rogue Legacy that I didn't love, I think the gameplay is a little weak in terms of control and whatnot. Maybe that was kind of the point. They did that purposely, but I always felt like that it wasn't as good as it could have been in that regard. So, as exciting as this is, it is... I want to see a little bit more from it. But it is such an early announcement. It seems like they showed like a 3-second clip of nothing, just showing a title, basically. And I just don't think like this game's probably not that far in development. I mean, they had some screenshots that looked pretty good, but, they didn't even give a date or even a time frame for it. They just said the game's in development. So I wouldn't anticipate seeing this game until next year, probably at the earliest. I am looking forward to that, though. Next thing, this one is huge for me. So Square Enix came out and revealed that they are working on Nier Replicant, and they're titling it Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139. Typical Square, naming conventions. But Nier Replicant. And the weird part about this is that it seems like a remake of Nier Replicant, because they showed a trailer and it looked it didn't look like a PS3 game. It looked like a current gen game. From what I could tell, they didn't really show gameplay, but they showed some environments, and it looked like a current gen game. So I'm not really sure, though. They didn't really spell this out that they're remaking the game, but that's kind of my expectation at this moment. Because I believe Yoko Taro himself is working on this. They said they're collaborating with a team called Toy Logic. And Yoko Taro is part of the team working on this game. So I think we could probably expect something bigger than a regular remaster here. But the weird part about this is, so I didn't know this. As much as I love Nier Automata, I've never really looked into the prior game too much. I always wanted to play it, but I never really kind of got around to it. And what I found out here is this is a weird kind of situation. Is Nier had 2 different games back when it came out. It was called Nier Replicant, which is the one they're remaking or remastering, whatever they're doing with it. And the other one was Nier Gestalt. And both games came out in Japan, but Nier Gestalt is the one that came out in the West. And that was the one that was named Nier. Here, we never got Nier Replicant. And the weird thing about this is that it's 2 different games, but they're basically the same game where the title character is 2 different people. So Nier in Nier Replicant is a young teenage man who is trying to save his sister who got a disease. And Nier Gestalt, your Nier, the main character, is a 40-plus-year-old man who's trying to save his daughter. And the characters all have the same names in both games, but, given the relationship between the title character and the sister/daughter, the games play out a little differently because of that. So that's kind of the weird part here. I'm not really sure like why there were 2 games or why they were so vastly different and how what time frame they came out next to each other with. But regardless, I am super excited. Any Nier project going forward that comes out, I am going to be all over that. So going back to the beginning with Nier is going to be really cool and really fun. I do loosely know the story of the first game, and it is a very bonkers story that kind of leads into the events of Automata. But it's very, very, very good series in my opinion. I think the storytelling is top notch, and it is very philosophical. And I like my games like that, and I like my stories like that. So I am very excited for this. There was no date. They didn't actually give a specific date. I think they just said they're working on it right now. Yeah, they did not mention a date or anything along those lines. So this is another one I probably would not expect, but by the end of this year, it's probably going to be out early next year at the earliest. I would say I could see it coming out around that March time frame, just like Automata did. That seems fairly possible. However, the anniversary for this game is coming up here this month on the 22nd, from what I understand. So we may get more information then. So if we do, I will have it on the show. Don't you worry about that. So, okay, last story here is Trails of Cold Steel 4 has been announced for the West. And this series, the Trails of Cold Steel series, is fairly... I wouldn't say old. It's contained within this generation. There's 4 games. This is the 4th one. This has already come out in Japan. But it has been announced by NIS America that it is coming to PS4 in 2020 in the West, and it is going to be on PC and Switch in 2021. So this series is 4 games. From what I understand, so this is a JRPG series that I think I've heard that it resembles Persona in certain ways, and that is definitely interesting to me. But I've never actually tried any of these games, and this goes all the way back, though. The interest in this series goes all the way back to like the PSP with the trilogy of games called Trails of Heroes. Or what is it? Hold on, I think it's Trails in the Sky. Yeah, Trails in the Sky. Trails in the Sky. I think it's Trails in the Sky and the Trails of Heroes, something along those lines. And the Trails in the Sky ones are the first ones. I think that's the first series that came out, and that's the one that really got people invested in this series. And apparently those games are really good. So there's a lot of JRPGs here in this series that I've always wanted to try, but never got around to. But I've always heard rumor that they're really, really, really good games. So I want to play them, but given how long they are, and because I'm sure they're very long games, so given that, I've just never really found the time for it. But I do have Trails of Cold Steel 3 in my pile of my backlog here at the house, so I want to try it at some point. I just got to find the time. And given that, I was playing Berwick Saga, last week, and I need to finish that. I'm playing Thronebreaker now, and I need to beat that. I need to get back to Neo 2, which I haven't played in 2 weeks. I really want to get back to that and play that. And then there was Mass Effect, the Mass Effect games that I was playing through in February. I need to get back to those. So I got a lot on my plate right now. The fact that Last of Us 2 got delayed is actually almost like a boon in my head, because it means that I don't have to play that right away, so I'll have a little bit of space, some more time to play some of these other games that I'm playing right now. So yeah, Trails of Cold Steel 4, I think this is the last one in the quadrilogy of games for the Trails of Cold Steel series. So that is exciting and cool. Should be coming later this year. So let me move on to the final segment of the day. It is going to be game releases, and man, there's not much coming out this week. Persona 5 Royal came out on Tuesday? Yeah, the 31st, Tuesday. Otherwise, I'm not seeing much of anything. And that's another game, though, Persona 5 Royal. I want to play that, too. I didn't play Persona 5. I literally didn't play it. I never turned it on. So I want to play that game as well. So a lot of games coming out that I need to get to. All right, guys. I think I'm going to call it there. That's it. Like I said, it was a short show. I'm going to get this in under, it looks like around 45 minutes. But that's going to be all for me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did like the episode, please like the episode, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And if you could, please share it with your friends. We want to grow the audience. And, episodes like this in the future, what I would love is if we started getting questions, I could really use that to kind of guide the episode, and that would be much better for this format, probably, I would say, in the future, rather than just having me monologuing at you guys for 45 minutes or whatever. But if you'd like to talk to either of us on Twitter, Montrell is at iTrapForTheHokage. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNet01, and the show is at The Players Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And next week, Montrell should be back, so we will have a more normal show. I believe we're going to be talking about, I do have one story here that I punted the next week, the Gearbox, the Kotaku article about Gearbox employees not getting paid bonuses despite Borderlands 3's huge sales numbers. So that is going to be a very interesting discussion because that one seems like bullshit. So, and then we'll talk about whatever else happens. Any other news, game announcements, delays, what have you. So that is going to be it for me this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next one. All right, bye, guys.